Hey, everybody. Coming up on this episode of Front End Fire, we have a special guest with us today, Adam Argyle, and he is going to be talking about all about web development interviews in 2025. So let's get into it. All right. So, welcome to this episode of Front End Fire, the web development podcast that helps you stay up to date on the latest and the greatest in the front end world. I am your host today, Paige Niedringhouse, and I am joined by my co-hosts TJ Van Tol.
Hey, everybody.
And Jack Harrington.
Hey, part of the team that just RC'd TanStack. Woo! TanStack start.
Yeah. And we have a very special guest on the show today. We have Adam Argyle, who is a staff design engineer at Shopify. Welcome to the show, Adam.
Thank you so much. It said, yeah, Adam's coming up, and I just had Pink enter my head. I'm like, he's coming up, so you better get this party started.
Yeah.
How old is that song? Is that song 20 years old?
Oh, yeah, probably. We should have asked you for wrestling style intro music, though, really, and just had you walk onto the screen.
What's your intro music?
Yeah.
And we didn't have to pay for that, though.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But
Depends on the music.
So Adam is on the show today. He has just gone through the interviewing realm of what interviews in 2025 are, and this is something that we have kind of touched on the show in the past. Of none of us have really been too active in the interviewing space. TJ and I both work for the same company and are very happy there. And Jack's been doing his own thing as a content creator. So, Adam, we were hoping you could just kind of give us and our listeners the lay of the land now, as well as tips of what to expect, how to get a job today.
Awesome. I can do that, Paige. Yes, everybody, I want to help you spring past my mistakes, get to the top of the stacks, and get a job, because it was way harder than I thought it was. And I'm similar to Paige and TJ. I was happy to roll for 7 years. I was the one doing the interviewing. Now I'm the interviewee, and I thought things would be different. 10 years ago, which is average of how long ago it was when I was looking for roles. That's React was just coming out. There was still a lot of jQuery, and the interview process was still very JavaScript centric. Occasionally you'd have someone ask you about CSS, and it never really felt very well rounded. And even when I applied at Google, I got the leet code tests, what measure O of N of this or whatever. And I had to do a bunch of whiteboarding and a bunch of stuff that I never did ever once on the day of the job. Right. So
yeah, exactly.
I thought, surely it's been 7 years. We're so much smarter now. The interview process has got to be a lot better. We've got to have learned from our past mistakes. Like, one of the past mistakes used to be the description that we wrote on our website was not written by the person who wants the headcount. So they'd be like, we got headcount. You go visit the site. You're like, who wrote this? This is 5 years old. This is saying we want CSS 2. Someone rewrite it quick. We're gonna get bad applicants. But we're in a new world of bad applicant scenarios. And so I'm going to share what's going on there. And some of it's AI related, right? Obviously, we're getting filtered as we apply, and we're getting summarized. People aren't reading anything. Okay, so that's a good lay of the land overview. And then, we're going to go into, I did get to use AI in an interview, which before it was can you use Google in the interview? I'm going to be Googling every day during my job. So can I do that here, in my test? And usually they'd be like, no. And it was kind of weird, because you're like, well, don't you want to see
what the heck?
How I work? I guess not.
Right.
So cool. There's a little bit of the lay of the land. And then I'll tell you who did it right and some of the positive experiences I had. Any questions before I just kind of start blabbering?
Okay.
I think we'll let you cook here.
Jump in.
I'd say just go ahead and give us your tips, and then I guess we can chime in with our thoughts as you go.
Yeah, sounds good.
Sweet. I'm very interruptible. Okay, cool. I also talk maybe a little fast, so if you feel like you're struggling to get in there,
no,
I don't know. I know, right? Just raise your hand or something. I'll totally acknowledge you. Okay, so one of the first things that you have to do when you're going out to get a new job is you need a resume. And so I spent a lot of time on my resume. Maybe I used AI to help me fluff some of my sentences about myself. I'm just like everybody else. I hate telling you what I do. And I hate making it sound bigger than what it is. I like telling you what I do very directly and bluntly. But that doesn't get people raises or jobs, unfortunately. So I spent time on my resume, and I was thinking back to historically, people don't read 2 pages of a resume, try to squeeze it on 1 page, right? And so then you do your best to make things succinct and as small as possible, which is a struggle all on its own. So you have to talk big about yourself, but also use very few words and try to, anyway, whatever. So I made this resume, which is also hard for me because I do a lot of things, and people don't tend to want that in a resume. They're like, what do you do? I need the elevator pitch. So this is kind of tip number 1 is just like if you're trying to go get VC funding or whatever, you need a pitch. You need an elevator pitch about what do you care about? What are you good at? Something that someone can understand, like in the subject of an email. Because honestly, I don't think a lot of people are going to read your resume. So that's tip number 1 is I don't think a single person read my resume. I felt so strongly about this because I was getting rejections, crazy amounts of rejections, right? I was at Google for 7 years. I figured I'd get out of Google. I have the ex-Googler tag, which used to be cool.
Exactly.
Apparently, it's not cool anymore. Or I kept getting filtered out by whatever. Anyway, so I applied to all these places and we get these rejections. And I'm like, did anyone even really look at that at all? And it would kind of be like, no. Or maybe they did. I have no idea.
To interrupt, one quick question. Is your resume like a standard Word doc? Is that what people were looking for? Or were you sending in either like a PDF or a URL to something you built, since this is the web world? What sort of file format are we dealing with?
Yep. So I made a PDF because usually when you apply, especially to older systems,
PDF.
They
want an upload.
They just want a file, right?
Yeah.
So I did. I made a file. But TJ, you're on to the next phase here, which is since I was getting rejected so much, I made a web version. So you can go to nerdy.dev/resume. Which I thought was clever and cute. I'm like, I need to get ahead in the stack. I would wake up every morning and I'm like, I'm getting rejections and this is hurting my heart a lot. And I need to solve this. Like I'm gonna attack. I'm not just gonna curl up and die with all these rejections. I'm gonna attack. And so I made a resume. If you go there, it loads, it animates, you scroll it. It's got scroll animations. It used to have WebGL on it when I was really trying to push that I could do cool stuff. And no one cared.
So let me just interrupt here for 1 second, though. Just people may not know Adam. Adam, any of these companies is insane to not pick you up. I mean, you are a master CSS developer. You know absolutely everything about this stuff. You give fantastic lectures on all of just the absolute cutting edge, cool like animations and stuff. And the way that you do it is super fun and engaging. So all these companies are absolutely insane for having done this.
At least not have a chat, because even the most talented person might not be a good fit. That always can come up. Maybe they're not looking for someone that's a CSS specialist, but to not have a chat seems crazy to me.
Yeah. So I guess what regular humans could take away from this is that, like, you know, if you're getting a lot of rejections, you know, that's going to be part of the game nowadays. You know, just like, you know, you get like an Adam Argyle is getting lots of of that. So
yeah, and that's kind of why I wanted it. That's part of sharing this story was maybe normalizing rejection and like not taking it too personally. They're rejecting a lot of people, and so that's part of what the tips I'm going to give you is you need to get seen. You need to pop out of that mainstream flow of applicants in order to get recognized and get the conversation. And also, one of the things that really was hurting my applications was the fact that I did CSS for 6 years. So a lot of people were like, so can you do other stuff? And I'm like, holy yes, you obviously didn't read my resume. And you can't just get around this world just knowing CSS. Like, well, how naive do you really think? You really think I'm that narrow? 6 years to see, and I didn't do anything else? Okay, whatever. But it did come up, people asking, what else do I do? Because I'm just so known for CSS. Okay, so then I make this animated resume, right? And I feel really good about it. I'm like, I've never seen anyone do that. If I got an applicant and I could go visit their URL, it's almost as good as a portfolio resume combined, right? Because even people applying, they don't even have a good portfolio. You go to their portfolio and you're like, that's a Tailwind template.
Mm-hmm. Or it's broken.
It's broken.
Yeah, it's broken.
Or it's just kind of crusty looking, right? You're like, you should work on this. This is a first impression. And people will load. So people do two things. This is really annoying, but this is also reality. They load your resume and they probably don't read it. If they do, they read a few sentences and they bail. And when they load your website, and they scroll a little bit and then they bail. People are making a decision about you in less than 15 seconds. And so that's what led me to the next thing. Oh, and I also want to share too, some of my rejections were because I was applying, some of the roles I was applying to were very aspirational. Like one of them was Nintendo had they still have an opening in everyone. They need a lead web developer to help run their web store.
Yes, they do.
And keep it performant, and it needs updated pretty bad. Yeah, it's
what's the URL for that?
I know, right?
I was
like, Nintendo. I live in Seattle too, and the studios are here. Like, I could have gone to the Nintendo offices and worked there. I was like, I literally applied twice because I applied once and got rejected. I was like, fool of a toque, I was like, anyway. So I applied again. They rejected me again. I was like, dang it, turds. Okay, so this is like after 2 weeks of rejections, and lining up like literally nothing. And even we'll get into like referrals too. I had referrals.
Wow. Okay.
I go and I'm like, okay, I'm just going to empathize with what's going on here. These people don't have very much time. They need an elevator pitch. I haven't given them one, right? So this is kind of what I'm telling everyone right now. It took me a while to reach this conclusion. So then I'm like, what do people do? They go on TikTok and they want stuff spoon-fed to them at a very fast pace, and it needs to be targeted and focused or whatever. So I went and I made a video. Now you can go to nerdy.dev/sizzle-rizzle. You can see my sizzle rizzle. It's my sizzle reel, and I called it a sizzle reel because I needed to be silly with it just a little bit. I'm like, I'm not that serious, everybody. So anyway, I made this video. I make the video. I posted it on my site. I syndicated out to Twitter, Mastodon, and Blue Sky. And once it's got collected likes on my site likes to, I go and I aggregate all those comments and likes to my site. And then I go put it on LinkedIn. This is the magical moment, y'all. That video got me like everything. Because what happened is people would hit play and it's just animation, whiz, bam. I put it to music. It's like, ha, hoo, ha. Seriously, most people, I don't think get past 30 seconds before they're like, my cup is full. You clearly know animation. And that's what you got to do. You got to make it so undeniably quick, like what you're going to do. And so here's what happened is people would share this around, and all of a sudden hiring managers and people who do the actual, not scrubbing of the applicant list, but the people who need headcount saw the video and they said, we want that on our team. So y'all, that's my biggest tip right now is to find out how to reduce your scenario, your role into something that can be fast-paced, kind of exciting, very focused, and let people point at that video and say, we need that content, that type of thing on our team. And that led me to some of my best discussions, including opportunities at OpenAI that I don't think I would have otherwise made it through the applicant pool. So let's pause here just about resumes, rejections, and then going through with an animated resume all the way to the video. Like, what do y'all think of this progression?
Well, your music choice is excellent because I'm on your sizzle rizzle and I'm sort of transfixed by the background music that I've got playing in a browser tab. So good.
Thank you.
I think the video works really, really well because of your background. It's extremely visually compelling. And I think this gets back at your point that you have to showcase the thing that you're most talented at in a nutshell. And for you, because it is some of these visual designs that you have a history of making, it lends itself incredibly well to this, and it makes a very compelling pitch in a very short amount of time. I mean, I'll even say that because I've just been, the URLs you've been giving, I've been opening them, and I was definitely, your resume, I was like, oh, that's cool. And then I, kind of went back to talking here, and then the sizzle rizzle, though, I am sort of transfixed a little bit, like out of the corner of my eye, I keep looking at it just because as humans, we're more drawn to those sort of visual sort of things. Your video brought up questions in my head that the static text did not. Like, oh, what's that design? Right? Like the perfect sort of interview questions. What does that build? What's the background behind this? It begs questions, which is exactly what you want.
Well, I think in a way, the fact that you did a sizzle, is something where people are like, oh, I get that. Like, this guy understands empathy. He understands like how to go and take his value, in whatever, some sort of like intrinsically exciting value. And it shows like sort of more than just like the content of it. The fact that you did it in itself is a thing.
Yeah. And I guess my question would be, did you put it together yourself? Did you get like an AV expert to help compile this? Like, what was your process if somebody wanted to put together their own sizzle reel? Like, is there somebody you'd recommend, or tools that you used, or things like that? Because it is so cool and like well produced. It looks very professional.
Thank you. I did use a tool, and I'm trying to find it right now because it wasn't Screen Studio, I don't think. It was a video editor that had cool transitions pre-built in it. I'll share the URL after here because I don't seem to have it in my toolbar because I really only used it for that one thing, but I did all the work. Fortunate for me, I've downloaded my Twitter history before, so I had all these videos from all these different animations that I've done in the past. I had to record a few more modern ones that I'm like, ooh, that one's just too cool. I got to get it in there. But that was all just me, and I just kind of know quick cuts. I've done enough video editing that I knew I needed to keep it snappy. It's just like a trailer for a movie. Like, you watch those and you're like, this is really low attention span. I can't stop watching. I was like, I need to trigger that in people.
One pushback I could see is this is incredibly impressive, but your average person isn't going to have 20 years of working and putting out these sort of public designs and having this background. So I guess, what advice would you have to somebody who's been writing JavaScript code at some big company for 10 minutes and all of their code is just processing data in an insurance backend? That sort of work isn't as sexy as having a lot of these public designs, and their sizzle rizzle might be, I guess, less sizzling. And I'm just trying to think of some tips we could give to people coming from that sort of background, because I think that sort of background is far more common than what you've put together.
Yeah, and it's funny. We were both transitioning basically the same space, TJ. Oh, synergy. Gotta love that word. I wanted to orient it too. So like this particular, my solution is a very front end solution, which is kind of why I'm here on Front End Fire, because it's not a back end solution. If you're a back end engineer, it's really hard to make your data grid and SQL queries look cool. Hey, show me your Kubernetes pod setup somehow. I'm not sure how you do that. Maybe you ask Claude to just make it so you could just be like, Claude, summarize this repo, and then you take a video of Claude summarizing your repo, and then I don't know. I mean, there's like some ways to do it, but you're right. It's totally harder if you're in a non-visual scenario. But I think the point I wanted to share here is that if you do front end, if you write HTML and CSS, you don't need to go tout your JavaScript prowess. You need to tout how you accentuate the people writing React, because React folks don't tend to focus on CSS and HTML. That's just a means to an end for them. They're in the React files all day, and they need people that come in and animate the markup that can help them choose something semantically. So like whatever it is your role is there in the front end, gather those things up. And it doesn't have to be 3 minutes. I honestly think 3 minutes was way too long. Like I said, I think people only make 30 seconds. So my tip is find the visual things you have done or create them. This can even just be like school, where like, hey, that client was Michael Jordan in the NBA. You just graduated. And you're like, yeah, it was a student thing. But it's still cool. Like you call it out, show what you did, and just focus on what you did visually that you want to keep doing. That's the other thing too, is like, don't necessarily fill this with stuff that you think will look good. Fill it with the work that you want to do. And
you can also make things visual, right? I just went through an interview process actually, and I was showing off something that I did at Nike, and it was actually an algorithmic thing, but the way that I presented it in slides was like more, visual, like, okay, we start with this shoe and we're going to go from this shoe to this shoe, and you animate it and that sort of stuff. And it's still got like, algorithms and boxes and numbers and stuff. But it's like, you make it appealing, you make it interesting, you connect with people. You say, okay, here was the real world problem that we had, and here was our solution to it, and here was my role in it, and really ground it like that.
Well, cool. Should I move on to the next little sections here?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Yes.
Okay,
So people are seeing you, they're coming to you, engineering managers are now aware of you. So what happens?
Yeah, and I'm still getting rejections, even with the sizzle rizzle. So, but I started having positive responses, which is nice. And then the other thing too, I wanted to mention with referrals, like I was applying to places with referrals and not hearing back, like Adobe. I applied to Adobe with a referral into multiple roles. They were like, this person could fit into these multiple roles, and the roles would have been cool. And I got a rejection. And I was like, oh, that was a really strong referral and a pretty quick rejection. And that happened at multiple places. And later I learned from some of these folks, it's funny, well, maybe it's not funny, that they found out they rejected me and then were mad at the people for rejecting me. And it's too late. Like I'm gone and I've moved on and my heart's broken already, right? It's like I asked you to prom and you said no. Like I'm not going to come back and be like, oh, did you reconsider? I still love you. You know, it's I'm not in that scenario with Adobe or whatever. So yeah, referrals used to be, this is kind of another thing that changed for me perceptually, is that I thought referrals were a really strong way to get a role. It was almost a dominant way that I've acquired new roles was through referrals. So traditionally, I would have told you referrals are worth their weight in gold, and I found them to have kind of, they're not as powerful anymore. So anyway, that was sad. Okay, so I'm finally getting recognized, and I'm getting into the interviews. So this is where stuff starts to get weird again. I get into these interviews with the recruiters, and they're like, you check all the boxes for this thing where we want, like some of the roles were, we need someone to bring in motion and animation and joy to whatever, right? I'm like, cool, you saw my sizzle rizzle. You got me, here I am. And they're all excited. I go through a technical architecture interview. They're like outlining the back end systems and how the data should flow from an event bus into this other thing. And I'm like, all right, I'll play games with you. All right. So I jump in and I do pretty well on those. Like I've been in this industry for 20 years and I've been on cloud team. Anyway, whatever. I'm like decent. I get into all the other types until it gets to technical. So I get to the technical interviews, and basically the long story short is they were all a checklist that felt like they wanted to know how many React hooks I had memorized. And this was back-to-back interviews that I went to like this. And I was like, so I'm in the middle of them and I'm like, hey, my React is fine. I'm definitely not your React Pro. I'm not the one that's going to go in there and solve all your super duper mega too many re-render problems, but I will go in there and make them pretty, you know? And so I'm in the interview and like one of them's like build a toast thing. Another one's like, anyway, whatever. They're like pretty basic tests. And the tests themselves were fine. Execution's like asking me to build something pretty realistic.
That's
so I got to
cool.
give them
That's
that.
good. Yeah.
But as I'm going through the thing, I'm like, oh, hey, I'm going to add this little accessibility attribute. Or here, I'm going to use the output element to announce this to screen readers. And they're like, no, don't worry about that. And I'm like, oh, shit. That's kind of part of my value add. And I'm like actively being deterred to do it. So then I'm like, okay, well, I'll try animation next. I'm like, all right, we got it. We got the render. Let's slide it in. And they're like, I'm actually not that interested in that. More interested in what do you do with that callback? You know, and I'm like, oh. Okay, you want to talk about callback architecture? Okay. Oh, I see. You're fishing for use callback. Oh, very nice. So this is where I could start to feel them guiding me constantly back to React solutioning. And I kept trying to integrate my value in between the lines and kept getting literally rejected. They're like, we just don't, that's not on, they didn't say it's not on my checklist, but you could just tell from them. They're just like, hey, if you want to get through this, like that's not what we're looking for. And there was one particular interview that was very snobby, where they first asked, hey, you can do this technical interview in vanilla or React. What do you choose? And I'm like, well, I choose vanilla. And then it was immediately apparent that I should not have chosen vanilla.
Wrong answer.
Wrong answer. So I start typing this out in vanilla. And as soon as I'm like, I type add event listener, I could just see their eyes rolling. But I got to this point where like, I was solving this problem and I wrapped it up in a field set in a form. And then I got all the data with form data. There's the form data API, which is great. Basically serializes the whole form into, you know, and I used that and they were like, oh, I didn't even know that existed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And then they keep saying, as I continue going, they're like, I didn't know that exists. And eventually they're just like, I didn't know that exists. And they're just like eye rolling, like none of this matters, basically. They were looking at me like, these APIs don't mean anything to us. I'm not impressed that you know these. And they kept making it sound like, at the very end, they were like, I learned a lot from this interview. And I could tell they said that in a way that was just like, I saw you use a bunch of APIs that just, I don't care about. And I was like, dang, Okay, so that was the one where I was like, that one really didn't go good because
so sad.
I got so many weird, snooty comments about my choices on solving it. Even though the thing I solved, it was animated and looked cool. And it's like, all right, so whatever. It was very, very biased technical interviews. I was very surprised because I thought after 7 to 10 years, we'd have gotten past trying to weed people out with weird things. And instead, we would try to bring people in to let their wings span out. Here's a technical interview. Here's a problem. We trust that you can solve it. Show us your style. Show us your technical expertise and show us why we need you to fill a gap that we don't have. Versus this test, which is like, show us that you can do the same thing a boot camp graduate can know that makes you one of us. And then it's like, that's it. I'm like, but anyway, so I'll stop there.
The same thing that Sonic can do,
Claude can do it. Exactly.
Exactly.
That's what I was like, AI is very good
with
at
no
hooks.
personality.
I don't need to memorize these. Yeah.
Yeah, honestly, based off that, I would say for better or worse, the advice might be make sure you go through a React course before you interview, and just because it sounds like that the main thing these people were looking for is somebody who could clearly regurgitate the, React 201 sort of material on how to build the basic building blocks of a React app. And it is sad, but I guess it is pragmatic advice for people to know that that's still a common thing that's expected of you when you're going through these processes.
Yeah. Understand why and how stuff re-renders. Understand when, you get these re-render loops, because that's probably what they're going to ask about. It's, look, you got an object and dependencies. Oh, that object is going to get, there's going to be a new reference. And just, know that kind of stuff cold.
Yeah, it's a little sad because at least when I've done interviews before, what I like to do with people is I just like to get them talking to show whether they understand a concept. So if they add a form data or whatever, I would ask them, why are you doing this? And if their answer is, oh, this is a new API, it's a really elegant way of getting data from a form. It makes it easy to post it to my backend, whatever. Something like that would be the answer I was looking for. At least basically I'm just looking for an intelligent opinion about it versus someone that's just memorized whatever they're doing and spitting it back up. So like the callback example, I'm less interested in you knowing the specifics of the APIs and how they work, and more that you've thought through the process. You've clearly done this before. You have some idea of the nuances that go into web development and some things that can go wrong, and that you can intelligently process that. That's what I try to convey, but I also don't interview very many front-end people. So I don't know. But this is just kind of sad, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, so much of it, even as a front-end engineer myself, is about trade-offs. And it's like, if you're choosing to use this framework, tell me why. What are the benefits of it? What does it help you do better? Or if you're choosing to write vanilla, give me some examples of why. And it may be because it's what I'm more comfortable with. I know that there are these great web APIs that are standard now, so that's why I like to use the browser's, power whenever I can. But just give us, be informed. Don't just be like, I use React because that's what I've always used, or I knew you were going to ask questions about it, or, whatever. Just give real reasons for why you're doing this, because that's the kind of decisions that you're going to have to make in your day-to-day job of choosing one library or another, or one implementation style or whatever. So yeah, just be logical about it and have a reason.
I think love that a lot of companies, though, and this was true a few years ago, they just have a very formulaic process. And I think that's kind of what you're running into. They have, stage 3 of this process is the technical interview, where we have Joe and Tina. They're gonna have people go through and make sure they know how to use callback in React and whatever. And the candidate needs to get a check mark on that to move to stage 4. And that's, for better or worse, that's just what a lot of big companies do.
Yep, that's where we're at. So it's really expensive to get us all there, and then they feed us through this weird, simplified stamping line that just sort of like checks you very basically. So after all this getting recognized, just to get into that moment where they're not even testing the things they want to hire you for is quite ridiculous. And yeah, treating it like a checklist, some of that's fair. You do want to treat everybody the same and have an equal strategy for hiring. But yeah, I just feel like, how are we here? It's like we've known it's broken for like 10 years. Like, why are we still doing the same things?
I will say, in fairness, though, like, if you have folks that want to get in immediately on a team and they're all using React, right? Yeah, you don't want people like writing bad, callbacks or, creating infinite loops, that kind of thing. You want them understanding the fundamentals. So yeah, there's a part here where it's like, if maybe that's the
I'd
role.
Say, yeah, if the role is senior React developer and you're getting hired in to work on a mega React app and that's your day in, day out, then I think those sort of questions are definitely fair. So that's why it's just kind of, you would hope that these companies would have more flexibility to tailor the process to the role they're looking for. But I think that's sometimes where the big company problems come into play, where they just end up on the script and have a hard time deviating from it.
Yep, that was Discord. They're a huge React app. The role that I was applying for was polish, accessibility, and delight. And it was funny in the beginning. They were like, "We haven't hired this role. It's been open for 3 months. We can't close it. We don't know why."
And then I go through the unicorn role. Yeah,
I go through the technical interview and I get rejected. And I'm like, "Well, there's why you're not getting the role to work, because you want someone who plays guitar, and you tested my ability to play bass." So like you're not going to find someone who can do all those things and pass. I mean, maybe you can, and so I hang on to it. But there's just so weird to have such a disconnect. And I wanted to reply to Paige's comment too about knowing why you're making the choices. One of my favorite things that happened was at OpenAI, and we'll get into like some more of that interview process because it didn't have AI, which is ironic. Anyway. But I asked at the end, he's like, "Do you have any questions for me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I built my own LLM streaming text renderer the other day just for funsies. And hey, I really struggled with when to know Markdown was closed. If you're getting chunks of text, how do you know when the Markdown is done so that you can close that Markdown tag and continue your chunked rendering?" I found it really difficult. And the reply of this person was, "I don't know, we just use an NPM package." And I was like, "Oh, so see, Paige is like, the interview, you need to know why you're making decisions." And then I ask them about why they're making theirs, and they don't even know. They don't even know how it works. They're just like, "I don't know, whatever it does is what we're doing. We're moving that fast or whatever." And I was like, this is not going good for you guys. So, and then the other tip here is I do want to say it's okay to push back, because as a front-end developer, and this has kind of been notorious, if you do HTML and CSS dominantly, your interview process has sucked for 20 years. Yeah. And I think it's okay for you to show up and push back and be like, "Hey, the technical interview didn't test me on the things that you want. Can I try again?" And I did that at OpenAI because the person I was going to work for and the role and everything was like super cool. And so when I failed the test, I was like, I like couldn't sleep that night. I was like, I gotta write them. I got to write them and tell them, because it had gotten rejected similarly by Discord, and I didn't write them. I didn't push back. I just let it die and fade into the ether. And I was like, all right, it didn't line up or whatever. But OpenAI was like, "No, I know what they want. I know what my value is and what they need me to slot in to do. I'm going to tell them to reconsider their interview process for a design engineer. I don't think they're testing what they need to test." And they did. They replied like, "You're not the first person to say this. You are correct. Let's get you in for another interview. We'll do something different. We'll change it up and give you another opportunity." And I was like, so relieved, because it felt so bad to be like, "I failed your interview because your interview sucks. Your process is broken, yo. That's why I'm not in.
Yeah,
you gotta
exactly.
hire this G, or like whatever." I'm like, you can't just show up and be like, and do that to someone. So, but it worked out at OpenAI. So like maybe it's okay to do that sometimes. The irony though is I went into the interview with a different person and got almost the identical test.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Come on.
And I was like, "Oh, this is just going to happen again." Okay. And I just let that die at that point.
At all.
So
Yeah.
yeah. Anything else before I talk about using AI in the interview process and who allowed it and who didn't, and what my strategy for using AI in the interview was?
No, you can't leave that as a cliffhanger.
No,
this is what we're all here for.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, turn and burn. Let's go. Okay, so the only company that allowed AI, there's only one, and it was Shopify. And I thought that was interesting. I thought it was interesting in OpenAI. I even asked, I was like, "Hey, how come we're in this editor thing and not in, why don't I have code assist with ChatGPT? Like, what's the deal? Don't you want to see if I can even use it? Like, don't you want to see me run 4 agents in parallel? Come on. You know what that command is.
Don't you want to watch me prompt engineer?
I know, right? But they didn't, and I thought that was strange because I'm sure it's used so it's just like the Google search thing. It's like, you can't use Google search in the interview. I'm going to use Google search every day. I can't use AI in the interview. I'm going to use AI every day at your company. Like, why don't you want to test this stuff?
To back up, what was the stance on Google then? Was Googling allowed during these interviews, or?
No one allowed Googling either. And at Google, when we interviewed, there was no AI assistance, no Google, no IDE. You typed it. Well, when I applied, you typed in a Word doc with no type of head help at all.
Oh, yeah.
The Google doc was awful.
I went to the whiteboard at Google, and it was all of these questions about, like, what's the optimal distance algorithm between these two things? And it's like, what the heck does this have to do with anything I would be doing on a daily basis?
Seriously.
And the answer is nothing. Absolutely.
Wanting
nothing.
to trick people is so rude.
It really is.
I get it. If
really
you want to see a struggle and you want to see what it's like when I'm on a hot seat and how I think and how I work through problems that are tough. Like, I get that stuff, but like, that should be one part of the interview, is like a struggle moment, not the whole thing. Like, again, you want to bring someone, they need to show off. If you want to be easy or be an easy interviewer, you should bring people in and be like, all right, show off. And then you just get to watch a show. Like, it shouldn't be this grilling thing where you're like, do you know this arcane magic spell that only we know internally? Of course you don't. It's only something we know. Like, well, what am I here for?
And I got to say, I've actually don't like, and I would go in and go into like the hiring group inside of a company, and I would hear people say, I've always asked the same question because I like to understand how people think. And I'm thinking to myself, you're an engineer, not a psychologist. How do you know how people think? What like, yeah.
Well, the other thing too, as an interviewer, it is very obvious when someone's over relying on Google or AI. It's very obvious. You can tell if somebody's used it professionally before and is using it as an assistant versus just asking for the answer and copying and pasting. And I never like interview processes that try to divert from what somebody's actually going to do in reality, because in 2025, if I'm hiring a front-end developer, I want that front-end developer to have experimented with AI tools. I want them to have used it as part of their daily workflow. I want them to know what things work with those AI tools, what those tools are bad at. I want them to have some experience with that. And by taking that totally out of the equation, it just seems like you're making it less likely that you're going to hire somebody who's actually going to provide the most value for your organization. So yeah.
Like,
TJ
one of
with
my
the
favorite,
segues. It's so good.
well, one of my favorite questions to ask as an interviewer is to get them, like you were saying, Adam, to tell me a story. Like, tell me about a hard problem that you encountered in your code and how you overcame it, or like what the blockers were. That's what I want to hear, because, whatever you give them, they'll be like, yeah, I can definitely do that. Or here's something similar that I've done before. But if you can get them to explain to you in detail what the problem was and how they solved it, that's a much better, I think, understanding of how they're going to be as a teammate, getting stuck with code problems and figuring them out or not. And that's the same thing. Just tell me something in depth, and that'll tell me if you really know what you're talking about as well, or if you just somebody else fixed it and you're trying to take credit for it in this interview process.
Every interview process is that ability, that one time where the person can just kind of give you a story of something that they did that was just super cool, and let them spread their wings.
Nerd out.
Otherwise, they go away from the interview feeling like, they didn't like me and I never even got a chance to fly, to show them how good I was. Sad.
Y'all are so expert. This is awesome. So both TJ's and Paige's comments here are perfect for what happened next and what I did that I did well. Okay, so let's do TJ's first. So AI is appropriate to show in the interview because, so I show up to the Shopify one. I'll just kind of tell the story. And they show me the problem that I need to solve for the technical interview. And they're like, yeah, AI is all good. You've got it. It's all hooked up in this editor. Let's work through it. We got an hour. And I'm looking at the problem. I'm like, we could one-shot this with a prompt. And he's like, yeah, someone did it yesterday. And I was like, all right, well, that's not my style. And I kind of came prepared. So this is just a little backstory. I came prepared, assuming that they don't want one-shotters to come to the interview, because that's also not the best way to leverage AI. And so I decided, and had pre-planned, that if it did come up that I could use AI or whatever, it was like I was going to pseudocode and code what I was confident coding quickly, and then save AI for a little weird moment or a moment here or there, or it's autocomplete, can make me do whatever, and just like show that I know that I get the best out of AI when I make a plan, when I give it tasks and outline some context for it to do, instead of just one-shotting something. And so I go through the interview, and about 25 minutes in, I've done pretty much everything without AI, and tons of the thing is working already. But I get to this one moment where I need to evaluate a matrix, a multidimensional array, and I need to evaluate it in a way that it was complex math. And I'm like, hey, AI, here's this little thingy I need to do. Tab complete, it's done. And I was like, there you go. I was like, this is known math. This is a pattern that's been solved 100 times. This is a perfect moment. And so I got to use AI. What I felt like was showing my expertise, when to use the tool, how to use the tool effectively, and all that sort of stuff. So yeah, TJ was right on with, that's what they'd want to see, is someone integrating it appropriately, and knowing its bounds and stuff like that. So that was cool.
What's kind of ironic about all of this is that sort of matrix problem would be the exact sort of thing like a Google would bring up for a whiteboard problem.
Exactly.
It's just funny how much AI is best suited for solving those sort of algorithmic, I'm struggling pronouncing this, but algorithmic math-based problems. It's right up its wheelhouse. It's just kind of funny.
Yep. CSS, or it's like AI is not very good at CSS, but it's really good at trig. And now we have trig in CSS. So AI is actually quite good at CSS trigonometry. I used it last night to make an effect. Visit nerdy.dev and you'll see my sticky gradient thing I just built. It's totally weird, but it's cool. And I used trig to put things on a curve instead of being linear. Anyway, okay, so then to talk about, we need to talk about who did it right. So I went to Shopify. Shopify had the best interview process of everybody by far.
I've actually been through Shopify's process, and I had a very good referral, got into Shopify, went through the whole process, and didn't get the job. But I thought you're right. It was a fantastic interview process, very fair, and they definitely saw the best of what I had.
Yeah, they let you spread your wings. And so the two companies that I felt did it best was Paper, which is a Figma competitor built on web technology. By the way, Paper, you are awesome. The tool is awesome. That team is awesome. I would have been very happy at that role, but I needed health insurance for my children, so it wasn't going to work out. But they did a cool thing. So this one's an easier story to tell, where you show up to the interview with basically a couple of the founders, and for an hour, they wanted you to show technical, difficult problems that you solved, and to show off and break it down. Show them the code that you used to create it. What problems did you have to edit? Anyway, it was a flex, right? Hey, you're here to work on a pretty intense design tool. You better have some relevant stuff to show us, or else it's not really going to work. And I thoroughly liked that because I have multiple cool visual design tooly things I've built. And so we had a blast, right? And so it makes sense. At the end of that, they're like, we feel good about this. You showed us technical ability. You showed us your ability to solve problems. Everything is well designed. Let's move on to the next phase. And their next phase was, we'll pay you for 2 weeks of the salary of which this role does. And if you make PRs that we merge, you stay on the team and you keep getting on payroll, man. If it doesn't work out and after 2 weeks, your trial period did not yield PRs that we found were acceptable, then it's not going to work out. And I was like,
wow,
that's actually pretty cool. So you allowed me to show up and spread my wings, show you my skills. I played guitar solos. You didn't ask me to play bass. And then I show up in the band and I play in the band for like a week and we just see how we jive. And I'm like, that's pretty cool.
it is.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was Paper. And then Shopify, they had a couple of really awesome ones. One of them was you tell your life story to the recruiter. And it's just having someone listen to you tell your life story and they're like genuinely listening. It was like I was in therapy. I was like, this feels so good. I'm like, are you still listening? I'm just yapping away. And they're like, yeah, I'm listening. I'm like, dang, this makes me feel good. So like one of the first interviews, I felt so good and I felt heard. like maybe they didn't read my resume, but I felt seen, like an avatar. I see you. And I was like, oh shit, you see me. That makes me feel good. So after that, you'll also get to do one. So this was for the design engineer track, was also show it. So in another interview, show off technical things that you built that were also beautiful. Show us your harmony of design and engineering. And I was like, again, thank you for you're not testing me yet. You're just allowing me to show you what I've done and spread my wings and flex a little bit. And I don't feel threatened. I don't feel attacked. I just feel like people want to hear me and see me. I'm like, that is so cool. And then it gets to the technical interview, which we talked about, which was AI enabled. And I felt apparently I did well. So in my strategy of not one-shotting it, I don't know the fate of the person that did one-shot it the day before me. I'm unsure if they got the job or not. I'm really curious because I was like, that interview was 3 minutes long. Holy crap. That's bizarro to me. And then there was a couple other follow-up technical interviews with Shopify that were also non-threatening, wanting to see, because Shopify only hires right now if there's no one, if it can be demonstrated that the technical expertise of this individual is no one else can do it. AI can't do it, and we don't have anyone currently doing it. So it's hard to get in. And fortunate for me in this particular scenario, they were rebuilding the entire React Polaris design system in web components, and I have a lot of skills in web components. And they don't have a CSS expert, someone to really help uplift across design and development. And that's how I got in, is I brought in this specialty expertise in a particular use case that they needed. And that's how I slotted in. So that's pretty much the story of all my notes here. And yeah, I hope that helps someone out there to get a job and they feel a little bit better if they get a rejection. They're like, whatever, keep applying. Keep refactoring your setup so that you reduce yourself, defrag your presentation, like shake it up into just the ore is hanging out because people don't want to sift through the sand. Geez, metaphors galore. I'm so sorry, everyone. Everyone's like, Adam always does that though. It's like, but yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, and I think that the way that you just described that of being as succinct as possible is something that is more and more and more important in our ever shrinking attention spans and economy in general. So that's the stuff that AI is good for too. Put it in ChatGPT 5, tell it to read through it, tell it to condense it, make it easier, make it clearer, all that stuff. Read it afterwards. Don't just like paste it back in and be like, that's good, it's fine. But yeah, any way that you can make it shorter and make it easier for somebody to say yes and see exactly what you've done and the most impact that you've had, I think is so critical nowadays.
And sometimes making that short bit the thing that you either are really good at or really want to do, or ideally both, can help you stand out in a crowd as well. There are a million React developers out there. It can be very hard to fight in that lane, but if you have some offshoot because of some specialty you've worked at, I'd say really accentuate that, because if you find the right fit for that, it can really help you stand out in a world that's very crowded right now.
And truly, I am not terribly surprised that Shopify wanted somebody with CSS expertise, because my own experiences with Claude Code and Cursor and every other coding tool is that they are not good at CSS. They just add properties. They want to use Tailwind if you don't tell them not to. God, do they want to use Tailwind? So
they use Tailwind even when you ask it not to. Yeah.
They'll get to the right end goal, but then you look at the PR and you go, "Good God, what happened here?
What? You
500 lines of extra."
Yeah. Why is there font weight on here 3 times? Like I did.
Yes. Don't you know how inheritance works, CSS? Yeah. So that is, and that's great. Like, especially if that is something that you are strong in, don't discount it. If you know HTML and CSS semantically, do not discount it, because there's a lot of bad stuff out there that the AI tools are getting trained on. And if you can do it better than they can, that is going to be a win for you.
Yeah, and CSS continues to improve, right?
Yeah.
They're constantly adding stuff to the web platform. So don't.
And it takes AI
don't
a
sleep
lot
on
of time
CSS.
to learn that new stuff, man.
Yeah.
You've got an edge on Claude.
There you
100%.
go.
Listen to podcasts like Front End Fire.
Woo! Seriously. Hey, those firecrackers, they're tight.
There you go.
Well, Adam, it has been so good to talk to you. It's been so informative, especially for me and probably for a lot of us who have not really delved back into the interview world since getting our current jobs. Is there anything that you want to touch on, words of knowledge to impart, tips, whatever, for people who are either considering it or who are in the interview process right now? Like any other nuggets of wisdom that you have?
Just some of the general ones. So I got nothing too specific, but like look happy to be there. I did a lot of interviews at Google, and people would show up, and I was like, I'm pulling teeth out of this person.
Yeah.
That sucks. Also, review your slides. I did an interview at Google that someone accidentally slipped the API that they were trying to demonstrate, and it was for a toy that is for adults, and I don't think they knew it was in there.
Oops.
I think they wanted to screenshot something else and missed that, and I was like, red flag. Red flags. My alarms are going off. So review your slides. Make sure you're showing your
Depends
best
on
self.
the role.
Again, like defrag yourself. Like be open to redoing something that you did. Because V2 is always better than V1, and that also is true for self. So if you're trying to market self, your V2 is going to be better than V1. So
yeah, that's in almost every field. I find that folks are they have this sunk cost fallacy when it comes to their own content, whether it's writing, whether it's video, whether it's whatever. You ask, they'll send it to you. It'll be absolute garbage, and you'll be like, I'm going to give you some point recommendations here. And of course, they'll just take the hot garbage and like fix the tiny things. You're like, but you really should just throw it all out and start again, because V2 is always going to be better. Like, I don't understand why people do that. You should always feel good about throwing stuff away.
Practice makes perfect, even with interviewing too. The more you're going to be better on your fifth interview than you are with your first, because you just get more used to how things work. You get more confident in yourself. So if at first you don't succeed, as Adam has found out, just keep going. You'll get there eventually.
Well, I thought you were going to sing Pink again. I was like, are you closing this out with a Pink quote?
Oh, yeah.
Didn't she do? Oh, she didn't do the "if you don't succeed, dust yourself off and try again. Dust yourself off and try." Is that Aaliyah? Anyway, sorry everybody for listening to me.
Don't remember who that is.
Is it Aaliyah? Okay.
Oh, man. Well, if people want to get in touch with you, you've had some options to drop your websites and your Twitter handles and your socials, but where can people best reach you online if they do want to talk about any of this or anything else?
Yeah, Blue Sky or nerdy.dev. So Blue Sky is a good way to chat with me. Those comments and DMs, they're open. And then follow my RSS feed or just visit nerdy.dev every once in a while if you want to see what CSS is up to. I'm constantly pushing stuff on there. I put a post on there the other day solving the question that I constantly get, which is CSS is escaping me. I didn't know that all this stuff happened since CSS 3. Please help me. Where's my study list? And I made a post called Cascading Secret Sauce. And it's 100 plus CSS features that you probably have never heard of that came out in the past 5 years. And so just open the list up, scroll it, find one that you don't know. It's probably in the first 10, and click the link to MDN and just go study it a little bit. Oh, so if y'all are looking for firecrackers.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Our fire starters
There's
for
a
the next
stack of
year.
stuff in there. So
yeah, exactly.
Sweet. We'll bookmark that for sure. Well, that is awesome. This has been great. Do we want to talk about what's making us happy this week?
Let's do it.
All right. All right. Well, Adam, since you were our guest of honor, what is making you happy this week?
yes, I have the EP 1320 from Teenage Engineering. It's also known as the Medieval KO2. And this thing is, it's like a big 80s looking calculator, and it's packed with all these medieval sounds for making like either your D&D background music that sounds like seances are happening, or there's a bunch of warriors going, ah! and you can just add those to a song. It of course has like drums and snares, but it has like armor clinks and sword fights and people chanting spells. And it's just like, so me and the kids
oh my gosh,
are just like,
I just Googled this
having
thing.
so much fun. We're just like hitting buttons, listening to the hilarious section, like amounts of sounds it has. And then you go look up people's songs that they make. That's super cool. So I'm feeling very inspired by the Medieval KO2, and it's bringing us a lot of smiles and joy.
This thing looks wild. We'll put a link in the show notes. You should click the link just to look at this thing, because I guarantee you, whatever you think this thing looks like, you don't know actually what this looks like. It does look like a medieval 1980s calculator, really. It's
okay.
One of TJ and my coworkers is a big D&D fan. He plays every week with his friends, so I am definitely going to send this to him after the show and see if he's ever heard of it.
Awesome.
That's amazing. Jack, what's making you happy this week?
Yeah, so I might have talked about this a while ago, but my kid and I have started, for whatever reason, watching for the first time the Final Destination series. And they're just hilariously dumb, and watching these kills are just hilarious. And it was kind of fun to watch them for the first time, realize that like, oh, this is a movie about these kind of kills. And you're like, oh yeah, it's like just watching them watch it is hilariously fun.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah, I need to do that at some point. I don't even remember which ones I've definitely seen the original, and I've seen bits and pieces, but I've never is there lines that run through the movies, or are they just all kind of one-offs that stand on their own?
There's kind of tropey things that go through, but like, no, not really.
Gotcha.
I think somebody put together like a YouTube smash cut of like all of the crazy kills and stuff, and it was
compilations
of it. Yeah. Because plot, really, who cares? Who cares? It's like either Mousetrap the movie or OSHA the movie, basically, because a lot of it's like, oh, look, this water is dripping onto this exposed wire, and it's like, okay, OSHA the movie.
Sweet. All right. TJ, what do you have for us this week?
Well, first of all, Try Again by Aaliyah is making me happy, because I did look it up. It is Aaliyah. That song came out in 2000, which is 25 years old now, which is very crazy, but I have been jamming to it. I'm the show's resident Googler, so I just bring things up and rock that out. So it is Aaliyah, so that's making me happy. But the other thing making me happy this week is another New York Times game. Longtime listeners know that I'm basically a New York Times game addict at this point, and another one of their games is called Strands, which is it's basically a word search, but it's a word search where there's a theme, so they don't tell you what the words are to find. Instead, you just see the letters in a grid, and you have to find words that are related to the theme. And then there's one clue that they call the spanogram that goes from one end to the other, that is usually multiple words. That's a little bit harder to find. And it's just a silly little game, but I'm enjoying it. The only downside is now I'm losing like a half hour of my morning every day to going through all these games and playing them, which, I mean, I have a blast doing, but it is hurting my productivity a little bit, but I'm having fun playing them.
There you go.
It's good brain exercise. It's thinking in a different way.
Warms up your brain in the morning.
That's how I justify it, right? Like I'm ready to solve some matrix math problems after going through all these things.
I do the same thing. My spouse has been going through all the New York Times ones too, but have you played Clues by Sam yet?
No. What is this?
Okay, Clues by Sam is my new daily, and I feel smarter. It's the only thing I do that, like, at the end of it, I'm like, I am now smarter, 100%. There are these logic puzzles that'll reveal a clue to you that is always true and gives you enough information to, without any chances, like 100% chance that you can guess who the next card is and reveal whether they're a criminal or an innocent. And so your goal is to solve the board and to decide who's criminal and who's innocent. And every time you unveil a new person, they give you a clue about something that allows you to unlock the next person. And it's like you're deriving ors and ands. And so it'll be like there's 3 innocents in column C, and then you have to look at the other things that you knew that were true and then find out who it just revealed to you. And it's a little brutal in that it doesn't give you clues and it doesn't tell you if you're wrong. So if you tap someone, you're like, innocent, it'll be like, nope, And you're like, well, do you give me more? And it's like, no, I don't. If it actually tells you actively, it's like, you're guessing and you need to stop guessing. And you're like, dang, it's harsh. And so at the end, you get a score that's kind of like Wordle, and you can share how long it took you to solve it and how well you did. And I'm thoroughly enjoying Clues by Sam. So I think you'll like it.
Yeah, I've got this open in a tab, so I will report back on the show how this goes, because I'm totally trying this out.
Nice. All right. So my pick this week is going to be a newsletter that you can subscribe to. And I've been subscribed for probably, I don't know, maybe 2-3 months at this point. And it's called Why Is This Interesting? It's the Witty newsletter, WITI. And it's written by these two guys, and they will very often have guest writers on. And they'll just talk about some super random topic for the newsletter. And it can be like, why did an oil company have a like travel and leisure style magazine that they used to put out when they were based out of Saudi Arabia? Or what is this really interesting thing that you can do where if you're in Japan, you can have your luggage shipped to your destinations for you for a very small fee. So if you arrive at the airport and you go to this counter and you tell them, these are the 5 places that I'm staying, and they will take care of shipping your luggage so you don't have to schlep it with you. And this is just like
That's
thing
freaking cool.
that happens. It is so cool.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the topics just run the gamut. It's all over the world. It's local. It's international. It's just really interesting little things. One of the guys is a scuba diver, so he talks about like these really cool little undersea creatures that he's seen on scuba diving trips, like electric shrimp. And like, I know it's so weird, but it's so interesting. And they're short newsletters, so you can get through them in 5 minutes tops if you read them. But if you like just kind of random stuff popping into your inbox on a regular basis, because I think they send them 3-4 times a week.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just little snippets of interesting stuff that's brings up weird conversations and like takes you down interesting YouTube and Wikipedia rabbit holes. But it's been really fun to subscribe to. So if you like that kind of thing, you probably would like this.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah. Well, once again, Adam, thanks for joining us. It has been great to have you on Front End Fire.
Pleasure being here. Thanks, y'all.
Yeah. So if you want to find us, check us out. We're on all of the socials. We're on YouTube and Blue Sky and LinkedIn and Twitter. And we have our own Discord channel, which has been having some really good conversations about random stuff that we have posted about, as well as just fun things that our listeners come across. So you can join us in the Discord channel there. And we will see you on the next episode.
Yeah.
See you next week.
Bye, everybody.